Hello and welcome. This is Navigating Your Year of Service, the second session in your AmeriCorps Vista pre-service orientations. In this session, we'll review and clarify some of the benefits of Vista service so you'll know how to get the most of them. We'll also explore some areas of Vista terms and conditions to make sure you don't get into any trouble. And we'll share some sources of help and support that you can draw on throughout your year of service. I'm Andy King.
And I'm Khadija Carr. We are at AmeriCorps Vista in Washington, D.C., and we will be your hosts for today. All right, so this is one of my favorite activities. We would love to see where you're serving. So since you know who we are and where we're located, we want to know where you are serving. So using the annotation tools on the upper left side of your screen, click on one that looks like an arrow on the far left and use it to point to where you're serving as a Vista.
All right, well, we can see those arrows coming in fast and furious. I love the colors. We've got a group already right in the area where we are.
Come visit us.
Mid-Atlantic region there, bunch in the Midwest, folks in Texas, Louisiana, the Southwest, New Mexico, Arizona, California.
Got one in Hawaii.
Yeah, we've got someone out in Hawaii. Lucky duck there. Right.
Yvonne, I'm not quite sure where you are.
Yeah, well, maybe that's to be Hawaii as well. So, love it. If Yvonne's in Guam. Okay, so we don't,
gotcha.
we don't have a separate place. So thank you. It must be very early in the morning, and in fact, Yvonne's one of those people in the future. I think it's already tomorrow.
Yeah.
Where she is. It's 5 a.m.
5 a.m.
You are such a trooper. Thank you so much, Yvonne, for getting up early and being part of this. Well, this is a really fun activity. And I love it as well, Khadija.
All right, so now you are in your third day as a Vista member, and we hope that it's going well. We expect that you're probably participating in an on-site orientation and training during these first weeks of your Vista service. So you're likely learning about your organization, how things get done there, and what you'll be doing as a Vista member. And I'm sure you'll also be learning about the community you'll serve in as well. This session is truly all about you and how you can get the most out of your Vista experience. By the end of this session, we hope that you'll be able to do the following things. Identify the Vista benefits that will support you during your service and know how to access them. Describe the key terms and conditions of Vista service and follow them. Access the support you need to have a successful year of service. All right, now that we've got those session outcomes out of the way, let's start by looking at the two main websites that you'll use as a Vista member. These are the Vista Campus and MyAmeriCorps. My.americorps.gov is where you applied to your position, where you did your direct deposit, and where you can access your Vista Assignment Description, or VAD. The Vista Campus, however, is where you completed your onboarding courses and tutorials. But the Vista Campus has much more than tutorials you completed before coming to PSO. There are also opportunities for ongoing learning. You can sign up for courses, find other Vistas, and also learn more about all of your benefits. Now that we've done that, let's dive a little bit deeper into the Vista Campus and see what it has to offer.
All right, so as Khadija said, you've already set up your campus account and you've seen some of what's there in your what we call your pre-service onboarding courses. Now we want to just give you a sense of how the rest of it's organized so you'll be able to find things more easily. So across the top menu there, you'll see various sections, and we'll start with one that's called Life as a Vista. You've already seen some of the resources here, but there's a lot more that actually you'll find useful once you are serving as a Vista member. So you'll probably want to refer back here to the Benefits of Service section. You read through them. We're going to talk a little bit about them today, but you might not need something today, and months down the road you might say, things have changed and I need a benefit. So that's where you'll go to find that. You'll also need to refer to the Vista Member Handbook, which is your guide to Vista policy, and it's a great source of answers to many common questions that Vista members have.
The work in the Vista campus provides online tutorials, readings, and self-directed learning on topics like working with volunteers, communication, fundraising, and more. Vista program area resources contain materials related to areas like tutoring, mentoring, financial literacy, and education. So if your project relates to one of these, you'll definitely want to look here. There are also additional resources around community development, project management, and so much more.
In the section called Connect and Learn, you'll find resources like the Vista forums. The forums have numerous discussion topics that you can join. You can see conversations already happening there. You can start your own conversation. You'll also find things like upcoming webinars. We have a couple of webinars every month on a variety of topics, as well as the Vista online courses, which we'll tell you about in a few minutes. As we mentioned earlier, well, we didn't mention, but the little activity that we did earlier, where we had you put your arrow on the map, kind of relates to a resource that you'll find here under Connect and Learn, and that is the Vista map on the campus. You can use that map on the campus to connect not only to Vista members, but to Vista alumni who are located in your area. You can also do searching across the country to find people who are doing similar kinds of things. So it's best to make sure that your campus profile is updated, that tells what it is you're going to do as a Vista, because that'll help you connect with others doing similar things.
It's important to know that PSO is really just the start of your learning process as a Vista member. You will receive an invitation to a webinar called Plan Your Professional Development within the next week or so. This session will help you develop a concrete plan for gaining the knowledge and skills you'll need to succeed. This session is scheduled for July 6th. Plus, every month, as Andy mentioned, Vista offers you webinars on a range of topics related to life as a Vista. Such webinars include Living on the Living Allowance and using the Siegel AmeriCorps Education Award, and topics related to the work of a Vista, such as building a digital ad campaign and strategizing your funding search. But don't worry, we record all of these sessions and offer them as webinars on demand. So if you miss a session, you can go back and watch it at any time.
The Vista program also offers 2 optional online courses, one on volunteer mobilization, the other on resource development that you can take while you're a Vista member. These online courses combine the training that you start during pre-service orientation with live webinars, online discussion groups, readings, and assignments. Courses are free, and if you pass them, you can receive a college credit recommendation for 3 undergraduate credits. These 2 courses are not part of the PSO blend, but they're available for you, and you can apply to them if you're interested, and if you think that they're going to help you out with your Vista service. You're going to receive an email probably later this summer when we open up enrollment or applications for the next term, and that term will be like late summer or early fall of 2017.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend taking these courses. I served from July 2015 to July 2016, and I took the resource development course during my service, and it really was beneficial to not only my project, but also my professional development as well. Alrighty, we are gonna pop over to the member handbook. Hopefully you all are familiar with this. The member handbook is one place that you can reference for Vista policy. For example, how much leave time do you as a Vista member have? A review of your terms and conditions, laws and regulations, and more. The left column allows you to quickly find a specific chapter. If you've not already done so, take a little bit of time to familiarize yourself with the information in this member handbook.
All right, so those are a few resources that you probably haven't seen or seen much of yet on the campus. The next one we're going to take a look at is a topic related to your benefits as a Vista member. Of course, you've already gone through the tutorial on the campus and you read about some of the things, but we know that there are some complications or complexities to these benefits, and it may not always be easy for Vistas to figure out which of those benefits apply to them or how they can make the most of them. So we're going to talk about a few benefits that typically generate questions and see if we can clarify them. Some of the benefits that we offer, like the living allowance, of course, are available to all Vistas. Other benefits are only useful to some of you, like the child care benefit. So as mentioned earlier, you've got a PSO Blend workbook, and the bullet points for this part of the presentation are all included there. We're going to reference several pages, so if you've got that handy, you may want to pull that out. If not, you may want to take some notes because, like I said, this is an area where we typically get some questions from Vistas.
All right. So I'm sure you are all wondering, when will I receive my first living allowance payment? The answer is Friday, June 16th. Note that if you are not paid by CNCS and are instead paid by a grant, you will need to check with your supervisor for your pay date. We are starting in the middle of a pay period, so you will receive a partial living allowance on the 16th. It will be for the 6 days that you have served. You'll receive pay for a full 14 days starting on June 30th and so on. The living allowance schedule can be found on page 25 of your PSO workbook, as well as on the Vista campus. This link is going to be posted in the chat, so do not worry if you do not know it offhand. Alrighty, so you are paid every 2 weeks, which is not the same as twice a month. And with your monthly amount, you can do the math to determine how much will appear in your bank account every 2 weeks before taxes. Because state taxes are not deducted, you need to determine what you owe to the state you are a resident of. We suggest that you check with your state's tax office to figure this portion out. If you don't know what the amount of your living allowance is, you should ask your Vista supervisor first. If they don't know, you may ask your state office or call the National Service Hotline in that order. You can also review the living allowance rates by county document on the Vista campus to determine your living allowance amount, using the county where you are serving. You can access your living allowance statement in my.americorps.gov. Again, if you are paid by a grant, your my.americorps.gov account will not display your living allowance statements. You have to contact your supervisor to find out what your pay schedule is. From the benefits page on the campus, you can access the living allowance page. Click on the Resources tab to access resources. Find out more information about your living allowance and learn how to live on the living allowance as well. Vistas also discuss how to make ends meet on the campus forums, once again highlighting the important support you can provide to each other. You are paid through direct deposit, which means the money automatically appears in your bank account every 2 weeks. Please make sure that you have entered your bank account and routing numbers correctly in MyAmeriCorps. Otherwise, your living allowance will not arrive and it could be weeks before you are paid. The routing number and account number are on your checks, and they may also be found on your bank's website. But make sure you select the correct one. You might know this already, but the account number on your debit card or credit card is not your checking account number or routing number, so do not enter it. If you are still confused or unsure about these numbers, contact your bank.
Yeah, and I'm just going to echo that one more time because we hear these unfortunate stories from Vistas. They entered the wrong number in, and so on payday they don't get paid. And our pay cycle is once every 2 weeks. So then they've got to wait 2 more weeks. They've got to go in and correct the information. Then it's really 2 more weeks before payroll runs again. So don't let that happen to you. Please double, triple check the numbers, make sure that they're correct.
And related to your living allowance, we typically get a lot of questions about public assistance, and we wanted to give you some important information. If you apply and enroll in SNAP, formerly known as food stamps, or at any time during your service year, your living allowance and other Vista payments will be counted as income in calculating your eligibility and benefit level. For most other public assistance benefits, if you're applying for new benefits, your living allowance should not be factored in when determining the level of benefits you receive. If you were already receiving SNAP, TANF, LIHEAP, or other public assistance benefits prior to enrolling in the Vista program, your living allowance and other payments you receive from the Vista program should not affect the level of assistance you receive. Public benefits are managed by state or local entities, and CNCS is not involved in how they are administered, so you'll want to speak with a caseworker for advice. In about a week, you'll be able to print a letter citing the authority for income disregard from your homepage in my.americorps.gov. All right, so we have just reviewed a lot of information regarding the living allowance that you received during your service. Remember to refer to the benefits page of the Vista campus for more details about any of your benefits. We may have generated a few questions about your benefits, so we're going to just pause right here and take some of these questions right now. I'm going to invite our operator, Susan, on the phone to give us instructions on how to ask a question via phone.
Thank you very much. And as we begin our question and answer session, to ask a question, please press *1 on your touch-tone phone, unmute your phone, and record your name clearly when prompted, as your name will be required to introduce your question. To withdraw your question, please press *2. And one moment, please, while our questions start generating.
All right, and while we're waiting for questions to come in by phone, we have one question at least queued up here. So Katie asks, does this the biweekly allowance that's listed for your county is the amount you will receive per check, is that correct? And I don't have it in front of me, so I'm going to ask my colleague Tanya, who may know the answer off the top of her head, because we have different charts in different forms. So Tanya, do you happen to know if that shows the biweekly amount or the monthly amount?
Hi, yes, so the one on the campus, if it's the one I'm thinking of, includes the monthly as well as the biweekly amount. And that is every 14 days, usually, depending where the pay period falls on. So yes, it should.
Great, thank you, Tanya. All right, next up, Matthew asks, does the living allowance count for public housing income means testing? And so as Khadijah was just explaining, we have this provision that's called Public Assistance Protection Income Disregard. So for programs other than SNAP, your Vista living allowance is disregarded. That income is disregarded when factoring or figuring out the level of benefits that you qualify for. So you'll need to go to your account in MyAmeriCorps, print a couple of letters. One is your service letter that shows that you're currently serving as a Vista member, and the other is called the income disregard letter, and it will explain the statutory basis by which your Vista living allowance is not counted, disregarded, when factoring in benefits. It gets more complicated because at the local level there can be programs for, say, public housing or other benefits that are in addition to or in lieu of federal benefits. And so I can't speak across the board with a blanket statement, but in most cases your Vista living allowance should not count. Let's see. Let's see. So Chris says, should I change my residency to the state I'm serving in? And the answer is yes. If you moved, if you relocated to serve, you should definitely update your record with us. But more importantly, if you plan to drive a car or vote or get a library card or take advantage of any other local services or benefits, you are going to need to change your address formally and establish residency where you are living.
Let's see.
Okay, so we've got a couple of other questions here around the income disregard. So someone says, asks about Medicaid benefits that I already had in place before starting service. Heather says, I have to inform them of my change in employment situation. Well, Heather, technically you're still not employed. You're volunteering with the Vista program. You are a program participant. You're not an employee of neither your site nor of the AmeriCorps Vista program. So, so you're not employed. You have not had a change in your employment status. And your living allowance should be disregarded for your Medicaid health benefit determination. All right. There was another question here about SNAP. So what did you do if you applied for SNAP and put the Vista income already on the application? Well, Joseph, if you've done that, that's great, because if you're just applying for SNAP benefits now, your Vista living allowance will be factored in. So SNAP is the one program that's different from all the others, where your living allowance does count in determining your level of benefits. If you were already receiving SNAP before you joined the program, then there's no change. But if you're applying now, or if you apply at any time during your year, your living allowance does get factored in. So, so you did the right thing there, Joseph.
All right. I'm seeing a question about living allowance through grant. So the statement was that folks will expect their first living allowance payment on June 16th, which is a Friday, but this is not the case necessarily if you are paid by a grant. So if you are paid by a grant, you will need to check with your supervisor for your exact pay date.
Right, and here's another question related to a Vista who's on a grant-funded project. It's about state withholding tax. So in that case, because if you're on a grant-funded project, you're going to get paid by the sponsor, not by us. And the sponsor will pay you using their payroll system, which is different from ours. And so in this case, I think Matthew told them about his state withholdings, and their payroll system probably will withhold state income tax. I can't speak to every other grant-funded project out there if they do it that way. So check with your sponsor, check with your supervisor to find out if you have questions about whether or not they will withhold state income tax withholdings.
Okay, I'm seeing, can I get SNAP in Massachusetts if I'm a resident of New Hampshire and have Medicaid in New Hampshire?
Well, you need to ask them, because we don't manage these programs and we don't know all the rules and ins and outs. But my guess is no. My guess it's a state-based program, and so you probably would need to apply for SNAP in New Hampshire if that's where you're living. But check with a caseworker there, check with the local SNAP benefits office. They can help you.
Seeing, how do you know if you are grant funded?
Let's see. So from what you can see in MyAmeriCorps, at this point, you probably won't know. You could ask your supervisor, but on your first pay date, you could tell very quickly if you go to your account in MyAmeriCorps and look for a living allowance statement. If you see one, that means you got paid by us. And if you don't see one, you'll see a note that says you are grant funded and you'll be paid directly by your sponsor. So, so that would happen on the 16th of June. If you don't want to wait that long, you would ask your Vista supervisor. All right, I see a few more questions here, but we're going to check on the phone to see if we have any callers online. So, Susan, do we have anybody on the phone?
Currently, we have no questions at this time.
Okay. Well, we're going to go ahead and move on. We've got a lot more material to cover, and we'll have another chance to come back if there's something that we didn't get to that we need to.
All right, let's switch gears now, and let's talk about healthcare. I saw a lot of healthcare-related questions coming up, so this is the perfect time to get those answered. We understand that healthcare is an important topic and that we all have different needs about healthcare. We will give you a brief overview of the Vista healthcare benefits that are available to you, and we'll answer general questions, but to protect your privacy, we will refer specific questions to our benefits provider. To get us started, we have an anonymous poll to give us a sense of what type of healthcare coverage you have. So, if you wouldn't mind, choose one that applies to you. I have my own private insurance coverage. I am covered on my parents' or spouse's plan. I have Medicaid, Medicare, or a tribal plan. I'm covered by the VA, TRICARE, or another plan for veterans. Or I don't have coverage and need to get it.
All right, so you should see the chat there, the poll there on the right side of your screen. Remember, if you're joined from a mobile device, a tablet, or a smartphone, you won't be able to access the poll. So take another few seconds to answer that. Be sure to click the submit button. All right, we've just closed that poll. We'll get the answers in just a couple seconds. But let's move on and talk about the Affordable Care Act. So as you know, the Affordable Care Act governs access to health care, insurance, and its provisions apply to everyone, including you as a Vista member. You are required to have insurance unless you are exempt under the law. So what makes someone exempt? Well, exemptions are available based on a number of circumstances, including certain hardships, some life events, health coverage or financial status, and membership in some groups. To find out if you qualify for an exemption, you're going to want to go to www.healthcare.gov, and you see that web address there on the screen. Probably most of you are required by the ACA to have coverage. That is, you will not be exempt. And based on what you said in the poll, which we can see those results now, most of you already do have coverage. So we're going to talk a little bit about what to do if you don't have coverage, but most of you do, and we'll talk about that as well. So if you don't currently have health coverage, here's what you need to do. Go to healthcare.gov and find out, first of all, whether or not you qualify for an exemption. And if you don't qualify for an exemption, you can use healthcare.gov to find coverage and to sign up. You can also seek assistance from a healthcare navigator to help you through the process of applying for health coverage. So here are the two options that the Vista program makes available in terms of healthcare benefits. And realize that only one of these options is going to be available to you or fit your specific situation. So if you have health coverage, most of you do, then you're eligible to enroll in what we call the Vista Healthcare Allowance. This allowance will reimburse you up to $7,150 for qualifying healthcare expenses. So this is out-of-pocket expenses. So it's limited to things that are considered essential health benefits. So elective or cosmetic procedures probably don't qualify for this. The allowance is set at $7,150 because this is the maximum out-of-pocket expense that any American should incur in 2017. Now, once you enroll in that healthcare allowance, you can use it and get reimbursed for things like your annual deductible or co-insurance costs, co-payments for office visits or for prescriptions. You can use it to buy the prescriptions themselves, or things like routine dental care and some limited vision services. So you can get one eye exam during your service year, get one set of glasses, not the fanciest designer frames, but you can get a decent pair of glasses or a supply of contact lenses. You can also get, x-rays and fillings at the dentist, some basic routine dental care. All right, so that's the healthcare allowance. It's for those of you that already have health insurance coverage or who realize you need to get it and you're going to get it. The second benefit that we have is for those who are legally exempt from the requirements of the Affordable Care Act. So if you're legally exempt, you can enroll in what we call a Vista Health Benefit Plan. So this is a safety net plan that covers basic healthcare needs. It covers things like doctor's visits, lab tests, hospitalization, emergency room visit, prescriptions, some out-of-pocket expenses, and there's a whole list of basic medical things that gets covered. It also includes some routine dental care as well as limited vision services, similar to what I just described for the allowance. Both of these benefits are administered by a company called International Medical Group, or IMG. To get one of these benefits, though, you must enroll. There is no automatic enrollment. So you're going to have to make your selection on their website, and you can see the link there in order to enroll. You won't be able to do it today, but very soon you'll get an email from them, about a week from now, and that email will have instructions and a link that takes you to their site that allow you to set up an account and then enroll in one or the other of these two plans. You'll have 60 days to enroll in one of these benefits. However, don't wait until day 59 to do that, because particularly if you don't currently have health coverage and you need to apply for it, you're going to want to do that right away, because it can take weeks and weeks in some cases to get those applications processed and to actually get evidence or verification that in fact you have coverage. And you need to provide proof of coverage when you enroll in our benefit. So we really encourage you, if you need to apply for other health care coverage, that you do that right away, and certainly no later than 30 days after you started your Vista service. And as I mentioned before, you'll only qualify for one of these benefits. You can't have both of them. So that's it. That's kind of the overview for our healthcare benefit. We're going to pause again and take questions. So Susan, give us a quick reminder if folks are on the phone.
Absolutely. Again, if you'd like to ask a question, please press *1 and record your name at the prompt. Again, *1 to ask a question, *2 to withdraw your question.
All right, and if you want to ask a question through WebEx, you'll want to close the little poll window and click the little triangle next to Q&A, so that'll reopen the Q&A panel. So let's see. Joseph says, if we're covered under our parents' plan, we should enroll in the Vista Healthcare Allowance? And the answer to that is yes, absolutely. So if you have coverage, whether it's under your parents' plan or your own individual plan or however, please apply for the healthcare allowance. It'll put money back in your pocket. Kate asks, will my premiums be covered for reimbursement under the Vista Healthcare Allowance? And the answer to that, unfortunately, is no. You can't use the healthcare allowance to pay for the insurance, actually buy the insurance. You can only use it for what's considered out-of-pocket expenses. So if you pick up a prescription and you're responsible to pay $25, you can get the $25 back from us. You know, if you go to a doctor's visit and there's a copay, those kinds of things you can use the allowance for, but actually buying the insurance or paying the monthly cost of the insurance itself, no, you cannot. And yes, Rachel, the healthcare allowance, the $7,150, does cover those who are on their parents' plan, but it only covers your expenses. So if your parents are on the same plan, you can't submit their expenses and get reimbursed by us. We're only covering your expenses, nobody else, even others who are on the same plan. All right, Chris has a great question, comes up a lot. I turned 26 during my Vista year, and I'm assuming that Chris is currently covered on a parent's plan. Should I still enroll in the health care allowance? Yes, you should. So if you have coverage now, please apply for the benefit, the health care allowance that you are entitled to. If circumstances change during your year, you can certainly update your enrollment. You could get new coverage, you could not have any coverage, or whatever change might happen during your service year. Please let us know and contact IMG to update your participation in our plans. Let's see, a lot more questions here. Kadisha, I'm going to let you help me with some of them. So Joseph says, how do you access the application for the allowance? That one is, as I mentioned, you're going to get an email in about a week from IMG, the International Medical Group, and that email will have the instructions. It's a link for an online application. Two steps to the process. First, you set up an account. Then you go into your account and you say, here's the benefit I want. There is some documentation required. You have to submit proof of insurance to get the health care allowance. You have to submit proof of exemption to get on the health benefit plan. But there's a lot more detail on their website.
For the health care allowance, when is the start date for coverage?
So the start date for coverage is your service start date. So it can be retroactive to your first day of Vista service, but you can't wait around. You've got to enroll right away and get that set up. Let's see.
I'm living out of state from where my parents' health insurance covers. I'm only covered for emergencies under their plan in the state where I'm living. Am I eligible for the health care allowance?
You are eligible for the health care allowance, but you're going to want to talk to IMG about this situation because there are a lot of rules around insurance things and health care reimbursement. I'm not an expert, but they certainly are. And explain your situation to them. They're really helpful, very friendly. They'll be able to let you know how you can use the health care allowance because typically the health care allowance is used for your portion of covered expenses. So say you go to the doctor and the doctor's visit is covered, but you are expected to pay part of it, the allowance will cover your part of it. In your situation, it sounds like if you go to the doctor, it's not covered. So I don't know how the health care allowance could be used in that situation. So call IMG. I really encourage you to call their toll-free number. You can get it from their website. It'll also be in the email that they're going to send to you. Let's see. So here's another question. Can we use the health care allowance towards a deductible? You can. If it's a family plan, you can only use it, though, for your expenses. So it would have to be costs that you incurred for your own health services or medical services. Those could count towards your deductible, and you could get reimbursed for them. But it wouldn't apply to expenses from any other family member. So hopefully that answered that. All right, Susan, anybody on the phone?
At this time, there are no questions on the phone.
Okay. All right, well, I think we've covered everything. Have we? Oh, something just came in.
Just got one.
All right, so the last one, Joseph says, can the healthcare allowance be used towards Medicaid? It can. So if you have out-of-pocket expenses, if you're covered by Medicaid and you have out-of-pocket expenses, you certainly can use that $7,150 to get reimbursed for those. There's a lot more detail about how it works. We don't want to get into all of that detail here. We just want to let you know about the benefit, which one you are qualified for, so that you can apply when you get the email, and that'll come in the next week. All right, so let's go ahead and move forward.
All right, so let's talk about some end-of-service benefits. After successfully completing your service, you are eligible for one of two benefits, the Education Award or the cash stipend. You receive one of these end-of-service benefits in addition to and not deducted from your biweekly living allowance. The first, as I mentioned, is the Education Award. The Education Award is good for 7 years after completing service. You can use all of your Education Award at once if you wish, but you may also choose to use it incrementally. If you select the Education Award, in about a week you will receive a new link in your my.americorps.gov account called My Education Award, where you can see details of and submit Education Award payment requests at the end of your year of service. The award can be used to pay off federal loans or pay for education at any Title IV institution. And a Title IV institution is an institution that accepts federal funds. The Education Award is taxable in the calendar year or years that it's used, and there are several institutions that match the Education Award. That link is on the screen. In addition to the Education Award, there's also a cash stipend option. The cash stipend is paid out via direct deposit at the very end of your service. It is also taxable in the calendar year it is received. Remember, if you selected the Education Award now and want to change to the cash stipend, you can do that at any time prior to your 10th month of service. If you've selected the cash stipend, you are unable to change your selection. All right, so there are ways that you can postpone repayment of federally backed student loans during your service year. If you chose the Education Award, you can request forbearance, which means you don't make monthly loan payments during your year of service, and if you complete your term, the National Service Trust will pay the accrued interest for the year. Be aware that the interest payment is considered taxable income. Forbearance is processed through your member homepage in your my.americorps.gov account. Forbearance is not guaranteed, and you must initiate the process by submitting a loan forbearance request in your MyAmeriCorps account. If you have selected the end-of-service stipend, you may request loan deferment by applying through your lender, giving the reason of economic hardship. For federally subsidized loans, accrued interest may be paid by the Department of Education if your loan is deferred. Check with your lender for specifics. Loan deferment is also not guaranteed, and your lender may not offer it. Perkins loans may be partially forgiven if the Vista elects to receive the cash stipend. Go to edaward.org to learn more. I'll briefly mention two more programs to consider to help you manage your student loans. The first is IncomeBased Repayment, which adjusts your monthly payments based on your income. As a Vista, your payments will be pretty low and can be as low as $0. It won't reduce the amount you have to pay back, but it will shrink your monthly payments to a more manageable amount. The other strategy works really well in concert with the first, and this is the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. If you have federal direct loans and are considering working in the nonprofit, government, association, or education sectors, you will definitely want to learn about this program. If you work for 10 years in public service positions and make 120 on-time payments during this time, any balance on your federal loans is forgiven after 10 years. You apply for this at the end of the 10 years, but you'll want to learn now about the types of records you will need to keep in order to apply. Of course, there are a lot of details to both of these, and you can learn more about them at nationalservice.gov/resources/EdAwards. For more details on everything we just covered, go to the EdAward tutorial, which is at nationalservice.gov/resources/EdAward, and go to my.americorps.gov to submit your loan forbearance request with CNCS. Remember that it is your responsibility to submit the forbearance request and check on its status. At the end of your year, it is also your responsibility to submit any education award payment requests as well as interest accrual payment requests. So we've just reviewed information regarding education and loans. Remember to refer to the benefits page of the Vista campus for more details about any of those benefits. We've generated a few questions, I'm sure, about these benefits, so we're going to pause again to take some of those now. I'll invite our operator, Susan, to give us instructions again on how to ask a question via phone.
Thank you. And again, if you'd like to ask a question, please press *1 and record your name at the prompt. One moment, please, for any incoming questions.
All right. Well, we've got some questions that have come in here online. Emily asks, where is the loan forbearance application form located? I can't find it on my AmeriCorps page. Well, Emily, the reason you don't see it is because you, even though you've started serving, we haven't gotten everybody activated in the system yet. The manual process, and our colleagues are busily doing it, but part of that is contingent on getting the oath forms, which many of you sent in on Monday, and some of you sent yesterday, and some of you are still waiting for them to be sent in. So all of that activation process takes a little bit of time. Once it's done, though, you'll see some new options available, and I'm going to show you those in just a couple of minutes. So it's not available now, but it will be within a few days, and you'll find it under My Education Award. So, so look for that. Let's see. There was a question here before. When you make your forbearance loan, your loan forbearance request, when you make a request there, it's going to ask you for the name of the institution. That institution is actually the lender that holds your loan. It's not where you went to school necessarily. It's probably going to be, you know, one of those long, complicated names for these federal lending agencies. So I'd ask you for that.
I would say in addition to that, because that applies to federal loans, you may also have Perkins loans, which you would put your college institution for.
True. Yeah. So a Perkins loan, right, is made through the institution itself. All right. A few more questions here.
So I'm seeing, if the cash stipend is chosen, does loan interest continue to accrue during deferment? I think for this one, no, it does not, because deferment means that your loan interest is halted until your service is complete.
So let me make sure I'm understanding this right. So her monthly payments would halt during a deferment, but the interest on the loan would still continue to accumulate. Yeah, so if she chooses a cash stipend, puts her loans in deferment with the lender, she doesn't have to make payments on the loan, but the interest will still accumulate. Yeah, okay. Let's see. So I'm having just a little trouble reading the questions here in the Q&A. Rachel says, does this apply for direct subsidized loans? So there's an overwhelming number of different types of loans out there, of student loans. So you're going to want to check very carefully because some of them use really similar names in them. So in general, it needs to be a federally backed or a federally qualified student loan. It needs to be a loan in your name. So there are things like Parent Plus loans that actually your parents take out that you can use. Those don't qualify for forbearance. But I believe a direct subsidized loan should qualify for forbearance. But don't quote me on that. Double check with your lender. You can also submit an application, and if it comes back rejected, then you can find out why. Right, and so again, how do you know if your loan is federally backed? Well, check with your lender. Like I said, there are thousands of different types of loans out there. There's no way that we can keep up with the names of all of them. So check with your lender, read the information that they provide there, and they'll let you know if it's a federally backed loan or not. All right, let's go to the phone. Susan, do we have any callers on the phone with questions?
At this time, we do not.
Okay, great. All right, well, thank you for all those questions about the Education Award and student loans. We're going to move on now and show you some updates to your account in MyAmeriCorps.
All right, so we've looked at some of the benefits available to you, and now let's look at your online account in MyAmeriCorps. Once you are activated in MyAmeriCorps portal, you will see some new options. If you relocated to serve, be sure to update your address by clicking on Edit My Contact Information, and let's go through some of the links in the left menu. So, My Living Allowance. This is your biweekly living allowance statement. And your biweekly living allowance statements will not be mailed to you. Instead, you can view and print them through your member homepage. My Tax Statements. Here you can access your W-2 year wage statement and your 1099 miscellaneous form, if you receive one, for filing taxes next January. My Service Letter. This is where you can access letters to certify that you are a Vista and defining income disregard to use when applying for public assistance. If you selected the Education Award, you'll also have a My Education Award link. This is where you will submit loan forbearance requests, later submit Education Award and interest accrual payments requests, and keep track of the status of those requests. If you have additional questions about your benefits at any time during your service, the Vista Member Support Unit, or VMSU, is who you call regarding benefits, help with MyAmeriCorps.gov, and general assistance as well. We've just covered a lot of information, and it's likely that you'll have questions in the coming weeks. So keep this contact information where you can find it. And you guessed it, this information can also be found on the Vista campus.
All right, so we're going to shift gears here. We know that prior to starting Vista service, you all took the Terms and Conditions course online, but we want to make sure that everyone is clear on the conditions of your Vista service. There's some gray areas, some things that are a little more complicated once you scratch the surface. So we're going to do a quick interactive activity to review the main conditions of Vista service, and we'll look at the ones where Vistas tend to have questions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read off a series of statements or scenarios, and we're going to use the same annotation tool that you used before on the map to place your arrow either in the yes section or the no section of the screen after I read each statement. So hopefully that's clear. Let's get started with the first one. So, yes or no, I can voice my political opinion using social media where I'm also identified as an AmeriCorps Vista member. Yes or no? All right, so I see a bunch of arrows, bright colors in the no. I see a few over in the yes. Give you just another second or two to weigh in here. Don't put your arrow just where you think, just because you see other people's arrows there. All right, so we've got just a few brave souls over in the yes column. Everybody else is over there in the no. A couple people seem to be straddling the line in the middle. So I'm going to cut this one off, and we're going to go to the next slide where I reveal the answer. The answer is actually yes. So unfortunately, most of you got this one wrong. Yes, you can voice political opinions using social media, but you have to do it on your own time, not while serving at your site. You also cannot use any of the equipment at your site, including their Wi-Fi network. You must keep your political action limited to your off-duty hours. And also, you cannot represent yourself as a spokesperson for the AmeriCorps program, for Vista, the Corporation for National Community Service, or your sponsoring organization. So therefore, please do not include the Vista logo on your social media profile if you're going to be engaging in political activity. All right, so that was our first question. It's a little bit tricky. So, Khadijah, maybe they'll do a little better on yours.
All right, let's try it out. I can demonstrate in a political rally, yes or no? Well, it's looking unanimous so far.
I see some people jumping back and forth across the line.
All right, let's reveal the answer.
Yeah, we're going to stick to using the arrow annotation, if you would, please. Thank you.
All right, the answer is yes, as long as you are not identified as a Vista or perceived to be a Vista. When I say perceived to be a Vista, I mean that if you are serving in a small town or a local area where you're not wearing your Vista polo necessarily or any of your Vista gear, but people know that you're the Vista, that could reflect poorly on the program. And so when in doubt about a specific activity, consult with your state office first.
All right. Good work, everybody, on that one. Here's your next question, or statement, rather. I can ask people to donate money to a partisan political candidate as long as it's on my own time and I'm not identified as a Vista. Yes or no? All right. So this one, we've got really a split. This is the first time we've seen so many people, kind of evenly distributed between the yes and the no column. A few people still moving around. All right. So the answer is actually no. So this is a thing that's governed by a piece of legislation that's known as the Hatch Act. And it says that you cannot raise money on behalf of a partisan political candidate at any time during your Vista year. Doesn't matter if it's in your off-duty or if you're at home while you're not identified as a Vista. The Hatch Act prohibits all fundraising for political partisan candidates. It applies to all federal employees as well. So Khadijah and I, we're bound by the same rules. However, you can raise funds in support of an issue, like Save the Whales or something like that. But, of course, you have to do that on your own time and not be identified as a Vista while you're doing it.
All right, let's move on to another question. I can join my colleagues in prayer at my service site. Yes or no? Looking heavy on the no right now. Got a few people in the middle. Give it just a few more seconds before I reveal the answer. All right, that looks like plenty. All right, so the answer is yes. Yes, you can. But you can't proselytize or ask people to pray with you. Also, while your VAD cannot ask you to pray, you are free to practice your religion.
All right, we've got one last question or item for you here. Hope you get this one right. We'll finish on a high note. I can have outside employment and or earn additional income while serving as a Vista member. Yes or no? All right, it looks like pretty fast and furious. People are coming in almost unanimously in the yes column. And in fact, the answer is yes. Yes, you are allowed to have outside employment, but there are a few key policy items to keep in mind. Your employment must not conflict with your Vista service or your service hours, nor can it conflict with any applicable law or Vista program requirements or policies. Secondly, you cannot be employed by your Vista sponsor under any circumstances. You cannot be an employee or a contractor for the sponsor or the project where you are serving. And thirdly, the Vista supervisor must agree that the outside work won't interfere with the Vista project. If later down the road you find out that the work does interfere, the Vista may be asked to either end the outside employment or end Vista service. So we would give you that option. We've got more details there. You can see the link to our outside employment policy there on the Vista campus.
If you have any questions about what the limitations on political activities are for you as a Vista member and other regulations and laws regarding your service, such as the Hatch Act, please visit the Terms and Conditions course and view Chapter 14 of the Vista Member Handbook. All right, so moving on from what is expected of you, let's talk about your rights and responsibilities. So prior to starting service, you should have taken the Civil Rights and Responsibilities tutorial on the Vista campus. To briefly recap that tutorial, if you believe that you've experienced or that you're witnessing discrimination or harassment, and of course there are legal definitions for both of those terms, so make sure you're familiar with those definitions. And if you've experienced or witnessed those, if you feel safe and comfortable doing so, you should first of all approach and talk to the person that you suspect of engaging in that behavior, the harassment or discrimination. So do that sort of direct approach yourself. If that doesn't work, or if you don't feel safe in doing so, you can talk then with your Vista supervisor about the situation. If for some reason you cannot go to your supervisor, maybe you think the supervisor is somehow involved, or if you do start with your supervisor and the matter doesn't get resolved to your satisfaction, then you should go to your CNCS state office. And finally, you can contact the CNCS, that's the Corporation for National Community Service, Office of Civil Rights and Inclusiveness, and you see their phone and email listed there. Of course, those contact details were provided in the tutorial itself, and you can go back at any time to the campus and check on civil rights and responsibilities. Looking at this a little further, AmeriCorps Vista is a federal program, and like anything supported by taxpayer funds, we need to ensure that the program is well run, that it's doing what it's supposed to do, and it's spending money wisely. Like all federal agencies, CNCS has what's called an Inspector General, and the Inspector General's office is responsible for preventing and detecting what's called waste, fraud, and abuse. So here are a few red flags to be aware of. If you are being asked to take over the work of someone at your organization, a staff person, say, who left the agency, that's what we call replacing staff, and it's not allowed under the rules of the Vista program. Or, after you get into it, if you find out most of what you're doing is administrative work for somebody else, that's also not appropriate work for a Vista member. You should be focusing on the things that are outlined in your Vista assignment, which ties directly to the overall project plan that was approved by CNCS. And finally, the majority of your work should be capacity building. That is, you are creating something that's going to last after you finish, rather than providing direct service, which, as you're about to find out, direct service are those kinds of things that directly benefit beneficiaries, like direct tutoring or providing direct client service. Vistas are not about direct service, they're about capacity building activities. You'll learn more about what those look like in the coming days, but if you feel that you're being asked to do anything that's not appropriate for a Vista, first of all, talk about it with your Vista supervisor,
And from there, of course, you can talk with your CNCS state office, and if the issue isn't resolved or if you want to remain anonymous, you can contact our Office of Inspector General, and the phone and email and website are listed there on the screen.
We want to remind you of a few sources of support as you move further into your Vista experience. Your supervisor should be your first contact for any questions related to your VAD or workplace. If your project has a Vista leader, and not all projects do, they can be a resource as well. The corporation has representatives in every state and territory working in corporation state offices. They can handle issues related to your Vista sponsor, supervisor, or emergencies that may affect your service. Your online classroom facilitator is available to support you in completing your PSO assignments. And as we mentioned earlier, the Vista Member Support Unit helps with questions about benefits, my.americorps.gov, or when in doubt, reach them through the National Service Hotline. This information is on the Vista campus, and you can find it by searching support. Keep it where you can find it.
All right, so we're just about to wrap up, but we want to leave you with a couple more things. One of the greatest things about being a Vista member is being part of the wonderful family or legacy of Vista service. And as a Vista community member, we want you to show your Vista pride. You never know where you may make a connection with someone else who already knows about the program. So here are some ways you can do that. You can put the AmeriCorps Vista logo on your business card, add it to your email signature, make sure that it appears on your organization's website, any social media sites that you're using for your Vista project, as well as on brochures. The place where you wouldn't want to put our logo is on your personal social media site, but if you've got an organizational one or a project-related social media account, it could be appropriate there. The more visible you are, the more support you get. Support for your project and for the Vista program as a whole, which means more Vistas and more communities doing the work that needs to get done. We're pasting some links in the chat that will take you to places where you can get Vista publications and gear that you can use in your office and to represent the Vista program in the field. And don't forget to take pictures of what you're doing and share them with us. You can follow the Vista, AmeriCorps Vista Twitter account and Facebook account. You can tag us or mention us there, and we may well share your story or retweet your photo. So once you finish your PSO, in about 2.5 weeks from now, you'll get an email with instructions on how you can order a free, yes I said free, Vista polo shirt, a Vista lapel pin, and a reusable canvas tote bag, which is a really cool gift. So watch for that email at the end of your PSO, and you'll be able to order those things for free.
All right, so here are a few reminders about things you need to do as part of your entry into the Vista program. Review your Vista benefits, especially your health care benefit. Make sure you have health coverage or get documentation of your exemption from the requirement. Do both of these at healthcare.gov. Enroll in a Vista health benefit option. Remember, you'll be getting an email from IMG with a link to enroll. Get fingerprinted and submit your criminal history questionnaire if applicable. You should have the fingerprinting materials. If not, get them from your supervisor.
All right, so let's take a look at what's coming next for you in your PSO. This coming Sunday, June 11th, is your first assignment due date, and you've got actually 4 assignments that you're working on this week. First of all, it's a comprehension check quiz. It's a quick little online quiz to test, make sure that you understand the information from all those tutorials you took. There's the minute intro where you get to create a quick little video to explain who you are and what you're doing. Then you get to watch the video, how poverty is measured. It's a cool little cartoon. And then the BAD worksheet. So the BAD worksheet is the one where you unpack your Vista assignment, talk with your supervisor about it, answer a few questions, and send that in so your online classroom facilitator can give you some feedback. Next Wednesday, you'll come together with the other Vistas in your online classroom in what we call your first virtual meetup. There are 2 different times for that. Your classroom facilitator will confirm for you the time, but you can also check the guide to entering Vista service that we sent to you a couple of weeks ago. Then the following Sunday, June 18th, you've got a couple more assignments due. 13 lessons about poverty, which I find a really fascinating video. Lessons from the Vista program, the first 50 years of our history and how that can be applied today. And then you're going to create a community profile. You're going to look at the different dimensions of poverty and demographics in the communities that you're serving. It'll be really useful for you. 2 weeks from today, on the 21st, you'll come back together for your second virtual meetup, again, with your classmates in your online classroom. And then that Friday, your final assignment is due. So that's kind of a recap of the calendar. Please put these on these dates on your own calendar, your electronic calendar. We don't want you to fall behind or actually fail to complete your PSO. Because if you don't complete PSO, you can't continue serving as a Vista member. So we're doing everything we can to support you in that and make sure that you can stay on time with stuff. The fieldwork assignments and the virtual meetups are really going to let you go deeper and further understand your service and the Vista program, how your service fits into our overall poverty mission. And it also gives you a chance to know each other in the smaller classroom setting. So I hope you'll really take advantage of all of those.
Okay, so we're going to move over to our Q&A portion, but before we do that, I'll mention our evaluation poll. And that is open on the right side of your screen. If you could take a few moments to answer the 10 questions, and then we'll begin the Q&A portion of our webinar.
Yeah, and be aware you may need to use the scroll bar in that poll to see all 10 questions. We really do use your feedback to improve these sessions, so thank you for doing that. All right, so you've got one more chance to get your questions answered, anything that we haven't covered up until now. Process is the same. If you're on the phone, although nobody's asked a question by the phone so far, but maybe this time it'll be different. If you're on the phone, you can press *1. Please record your name at the prompt. Make sure your phone isn't muted so we can hear your name, and then stay on the line. You'll continue to hear the presentation while we're doing the rest of it. So if you're on the phone, you'll hear the presentation, and then our operator will come in and get you. And of course, you know how to get to the Q&A by now, but because the poll has closed it, remember, click the little triangle next to the letters Q&A, and it will reopen. All right, so we've got a few questions that have come in before, and some of them are out of context, so I'm not sure what they're asking about. Alyssa says, how can I find their contact information, but I'm not sure who you're referring to. So Alyssa, if you want to post a little bit more, send us another question in the Q&A so we can answer that. Melanie says, where are we sending our minute intro? Well, all the instructions for that activity and all your other assignments are in your online classroom. That's the site you went to join this webinar. So if you look just below where these webinar links are, you'll see the week 1 assignments. Go in there, detailed instructions. They're really quite clear, I think, hopefully, on how to do these. Basically what you're going to do is you're going to write your little minute intro script, rehearse it, take a video with your cell phone or something, and then you're going to post it to a site, and then you'll take the link to that video and submit it. And you'll see the instructions, how you'll submit it through a forum in your classroom. Let's see, what other questions here? So Alyssa was asking, how do I contact my state office? Thank you, Alyssa, for that. In regards to fingerprints, I still don't have the kit. Oh, it just went away. So basically, if you don't have a fingerprint kit, you'll get it from your Vista supervisor. And if your supervisor doesn't have the kits, your supervisor will get it from the state office. So you don't need to contact the state office directly for fingerprint kits. Your supervisor will order those kits on your behalf.
Or I'm saying, is it possible to get a transcript of the chat in Monday's webinar?
Yeah, so we've got that, and we'll make a note of your name, Chris, and we'll be able to send that to you. Let's see, Heather wants to know the VMSU hotline or the National Service Hotline number. That number is 1-800-942-2677. Let's see, maybe, Andy, maybe we can go back a couple slides to, let's see, where is that slide? Yes, where we've got the number, so that'll be up there. I think it's one more back. Yep, there it is. Thank you. So you can see the number in kind of the upper right corner there.
And excuse me, Mr. King, we do have a question on the phone.
Okay, great, Susan. Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you. Matthew, your line is open.
Hi, Matthew.
Yeah. Hi, Andy. I had a question about basically self-employment income and whether or not we're required to fill out an outside employment form. You have someone who has a lot of hobbies that are occasionally like monetizable. You know, I'll make like a little board game and I'll decide maybe I want to sell this. And I guess I'm a little confused as to whether I need to request authorization to do this, because if it's self-employment, it automatically happens outside of, you know, my Vista hours. Do I still need to submit paperwork?
Yeah, if you would, that would be great. And the reason is it's a relatively recent change to Vista regulations that actually allow to have outside employment. For decades, literally, Vistas were not. We use that form, I mean, really, the supervisor uses it to see if there might be a potential conflict, which probably is not the case in your situation. But we also use it here really just more for tracking to get a sense of how many Vistas have outside employment, what kinds of things are they doing, how many hours might they be working outside of Vista. So if you wouldn't mind, it's a very short thing. It hopefully isn't a burden at all. And then just hand that to your supervisor, and your supervisor will send it in. So that would be great.
I guess I worry about whether or not my, you know, especially if I guess I worry about a supervisor getting offended by like the content of something and choosing to deny authorization based off of that.
Sure. Well, you know, different organizations have different policies around outside employment. For instance, where I work here for the Vista program, I'm allowed to have outside work, but there are limitations around it. So I can't do anything that's related to national service or volunteering programs or anything like that, because it would be seen as a conflict of interest. Certainly, the sponsors have the same prerogative. A conflict or could reflect badly on them. They would have that right as well. Anyway, I hope I've answered that for you. If you have further questions, you might want to check with your state office so that you don't have to do it in such a public way on this webinar. I appreciate your questions.
No problem.
Thank you.
And currently there are no further questions. Again, if you'd like to ask a question, please press *1.
All right. So a couple other questions. A few of you have asked for the chat from Monday, so we'll get that out to you. We do have actually an on-demand version of Monday's webinar available on the Vista campus, and you can download the slides there. To Joseph's question. Let's see, so Yvonne says, where can my supervisor find my terms and conditions pertaining to my role? So the Vista terms and conditions, of course, are available on the Vista campus. There is, you might tell your supervisor, within the supervisor section of the campus, there's kind of a reference guide for supervisors on the Vista terms and conditions. So, so he or she will be able to find them there. All right, well, we're wrapping up most of the questions. There is one here that I've kind of held that was asked earlier. Of course, we've heard a lot in the news about federal budgets and all of that. And the budget process is a long one, and there's always a lot of back and forth between the different houses of Congress and the White House. So the first initial budget that's put out on either side is never the final one. The question here related to, you know, if by chance the AmeriCorps program were to be cut in next year's budget, what would happen to our end of service award? So if we selected the education award, would we still receive it? Or the cash stipend, would we still receive it? For anybody who has already earned an education award, we are quite confident that those benefits would remain available to you up through the 7-year period that you have to use it. But if someone is not able to finish their AmeriCorps Vista term of service, we don't yet know whether you'd be able to actually receive a partial education award. It's never happened before. There's no precedent for it, so I can't really say definitively one way or the other. It may be considered a compelling circumstance since it's outside of your control, and there may be a blanket award of partial education awards to people who are serving in that situation, but it's really it's an unknown thing, so I can't give you a clear answer on that. But obviously our hope and our goal is to keep the program running as best we can. If our budget changes, we're committed to putting as many resources as we can into Vista positions to support Vista members and to support their benefits so that there's the least amount of disruption possible to those of you who are out there serving in the community. So that much I can say, but we'll see. As I said, it's a long process, and you know, it's not the first time that this has been proposed, and every year up until now, we've prevailed, and we've gotten our funding restored in the budget. So we're really hopeful this time as well. All right. Well, it's taken us up to the end of our time together. We've had a great group. You've been really participatory, and you've had great questions, a lot of conversation. I want to thank you all for your participation today. I also want to thank my colleagues behind the scenes who've been helping you in the chat and Q&A, answering your questions. We have Tanya Veliz, who's at the Vista Member Support Unit, Ann Oti, who is here at Vista headquarters, along with Jessica Birch. And then our production team at Education Northwest, we have Andy Clark and Scott Weinrobe. So thank you all for your production, as well as Susan, our phone operator. Thank you all for your support. And I want to thank all of you for joining the Vista program and wish you much success. And I'm going to leave you with this quote from Lyndon Johnson. He said, "Your pay will be low, the conditions of your labor will often be difficult, but you will have the satisfaction of leading a great national effort, and you will have the ultimate reward which comes to those who serve their nation and who serve their fellow man." So thank you very much.